Everybody, welcome to the Tuesday, January 6, 2026 meeting of the Litchfield Planning Board. Would you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'll start with the roll call of members. Michael Croto, Chair.
Jared O'Connell, Vice Chair.
Russell Blanchett, member.
Jesse No, alternate.
Travis Tucker, member.
Lee Ferrari, member.
Steve Gannon, Selectman's Rep.
Okay, welcome everybody. And tonight we have with us Jay Minkara from NRPC, welcome, and Joan McKibben, our Planning Board Administrator. Jeremy Robertoy is not going to be with us this evening. He sent me an email that he couldn't make it. So I guess we will ask Jesse if he's interested in becoming an alternate for voting purposes this evening.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so we'll make you an alternate member for appointment of, for voting. First item on the agenda is public input on non-agenda items not listed on the agenda for this evening. Is there any public input related to non-agenda items this evening? And hearing none, I will close public input on non-agenda items. And we will go to the first order of business. Well, tonight we actually have public hearing per RSA 675:7. We have a couple of things on the agenda for this evening. Those would include the accessory dwelling units, home occupations, requirements for solar energy systems, foundation certifications, and amend section 1301.03, add impact fees to be usable for public works facilities. We have a petition article to remove zoning section 1504.00A regarding signs on Albuquerque Ave, and vote by planning board for the March ballot. So I guess what I will do at this time is I will turn it over to Jay just briefly, and we'll have him give just a brief summation of some of this, and then we'll open it up to public comment. How's that?
Okay. I do have a handful of printed copies of the amendments, if anybody needs one. Oh, you do? Never mind. If anybody else needs one, I've got a few. All right, I'm just going to run through these. I'm actually not going to do it on the screen because it doesn't flow very well and it's hard to read. So starting with item 1, which is to amend section 507 of the zoning ordinance related to accessory dwelling units, and the initial intent of this was to comply with recent changes, or I should say primarily to comply with recent changes in state law that allow both attached and detached ADUs by right. So that was the primary driver. And then there was also a lot of conversation around the possibility of also increasing the size of ADUs. So those are really the two primary drivers. But for I guess for those who were here and those who were not here at the last work session that we had on these, there was a lot of input on this item. So there are now several additional changes that we've made based on that input, and so I'm just going to run through those. If it isn't obvious, basically new language is in bold italics and language to be removed is struck. So just kind of starting with the first more significant one that is, somewhat significant, substantive anyway, section 507.02. There was just concern expressed that we do want to maintain the character of existing single-family neighborhoods, and we should state that overtly, so that was added. There was also some concern expressed that while we had a definition of accessory dwelling units, it was not exactly the same as the state definition, and the suggestion was why not use the state definition that's in the RSAs. So that's what you see here. It's not significantly different, but there are differences in wording, so that made sense. And then moving on down to the bottom of the first page is section 507.04. This is really where we had a lot of conversation around allowing larger ADUs. I mean, the testimony that we had overwhelmingly was in support of allowing something larger. And this relates to another change I'm going to make later, but there was also a lot of conversation around how we define what is the square footage within the ADU. And what we've learned is that the current practice is it's kind of an elaborate process of calculating the square footage of closets and corridors and different types of space and removing them. So the sense was we didn't want to do that, so I'll get to that point later. But so what was the square footage allowed? And so what we landed on was, first of all, eliminating a minimum. So you can have an ADU as small as you want to have it. So that would be eliminated. But in terms of the maximum, it's been amended to say the total living space of an ADU or the ADU shall not exceed 75% of the total living space of the principal dwelling with a maximum size of 1,200 square feet. Notwithstanding the above, no ADU shall be restricted to less than 750 square feet of total living space. So essentially we can't require that you be less than 750 square feet, and you can go up to 1,200 square feet. Also, just in the next subsection C, just clarifying it's 1 ADU per single-family home. I'm now going on to the next page. And just adding in a line, we do require that the property owner has to occupy one of the 2 units. But was some concern expressed around we don't want to become a rental community, so we just added an express statement that the owner has to provide some evidence that they occupy one of the units. Going on down to subsection F, this is really not so much a substantive change as this is just taking the language exactly as it's in the statute. Our language was similar. This will be exactly paralleling the statutory language. And again, we just clarify that you can't have more than 2 bedrooms. And that's because we have 2 different sections here, attached, detached, so neither one can have more than 2 bedrooms. Moving on down, the change that you see in section 507.06 is the way we had in Litchfield allowed detached ADUs, but we did it as a conditional use. You can no longer do it as a conditional use. It's allowed by right. So we just reflect that in this change. It's no longer the planning board that approves it. It's the building inspector who approves it. I'm now going on to page 3. And kind of once again, as I mentioned earlier, there was this concern expressed around maintaining the character of the neighborhood. So we just, in subsection E, towards the top of the page, emphasize that, again, that we're trying to protect the character of existing neighborhoods. And then finally, section 507.07, this is new, and this is also, consistent with the statute. So we took that statutory language again that just states that an accessory dwelling unit may be converted from existing structures, including but not limited to detached garages, barns, or other similar structures, and this is key, regardless of whether such structures violate current dimensional requirements for setbacks or lot coverage. So that essentially means that if you have an existing barn, detached garage, or outbuilding, even if it doesn't meet setback requirements, you can convert that to an ADU. You don't have to get a variance. And then finally, we had a lot of conversation around total living space, and so this amendment would also add a new section or subsection to the definition section to define total living space. And the new definition would be total living space. Total living space is the finished, heated, and habitable area of a home, including rooms such as kitchens, living rooms, dining rooms, bedrooms, bathrooms, plus hallways, stairs, laundry rooms, pantries, and closets, but excluding unfinished basements, unfinished attics, porches, decks, and garages. It is calculated by measuring, I'm turning over to page 4, the exterior dimensions of above-grade floors of the home and subtracting non-finished, unheated, and non-habitable areas. The area of a stairwell shall only be counted once. Hopefully that all makes sense. So that is item 1.
Okay.
Shall I go on item 2, or shall we?
Well, I guess if you want, we can go one by one and maybe open it up to public comment for each one as we go. So this is basically for the accessory dwelling units. So at this time, because this is a public hearing, we can have public comment. So if anyone is interested in commenting on this particular zoning amendment, you could please step forward, state your name and address for the record, and provide your input.
Good evening, everyone. Ray Peoples, 205 Charles Bancroft Highway. I heard about this increase in size, and it comes as a great concern to me that at 1,200 square feet, you are going to change the character of this town. These are very large. At the state, when we approved this, and we passed this in the House, that was a highly debated number, how big to make them. The Free Staters wanted it to be endless. You can build anything you want on your property, no matter how big it is. You got property, you can build it. The rest of us all lobbied very hard to keep these in a controllable size so that they wouldn't become a blight on the neighborhoods. These are all, much of the planning in Litchfield has been done over the years to single-family residential neighborhoods. We don't even have much mixed use other than what you've just approved in recent history. So when we, as you know, you take a plan in, you start by, can we support this? We look at sewer. We don't have sewer. So we look at septic systems. What can those lots take for effluent disposal? What do we have for water? Can Pennachuck supply us enough water? We look at all that when we start a subdivision here. Now we're going to take all this work and all these years of planning and blow a hole in it. Anybody that wants can just add another house in their backyard. 1,200 square feet, 28 by 40, these are big places. They're not small. If you happen to know where I live on Route 3A, the building that I have out by the side of my house is 28 by 40. That's as big as many of the single-family residents here in the North End along Oak Drive and places like that where the Ray's Ranches were built for a number of years in the 70s. So we're increasing the impact on fire. We're increasing the impact on police, water, what our groundwater disposal here in the town where we have very sandy soils can take. And septic systems are designed by the number of bedrooms. So if you have a house that has a septic system that was designed for 3 bedrooms, and now you add 2 more, you're going to push that septic system to failure faster, and we're going to be having problems, with groundwater and incursion into things like wells. There's another problem you have, right, is setbacks on all those things. So I would highly encourage the board to reconsider the 1,200 square feet and make the building envelope whatever it is. If it's 28 by 40, that's the livable square feet, and calculate it on that. I also, I don't know, are you collecting impact fees on these permits? Because these are going to add to police and fire and ambulance service and stuff like that as we move ahead. So there should be some of that rolled into the CIP, impact fee calculations. I don't know. I'm not 100% wed that we're headed in the right direction with this ADU thing to solve our housing crisis in New Hampshire. That being said, I'd just like to please reconsider the square footage calculation.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else for public comment regarding ADU? Yes, come forward.
How are you? Pierre Garan, 15 Chasebrook Circle. So I've done a lot of ADUs in Litchfield, and I have a copy,
So there are
Yeah.
copies here for the board if they're interested.
and I want to give you an example. I think there's 5 examples, but I'll give you one. I made 5 copies there. So those are all the ADUs I've done in the past 2.5 years, okay? So the one on Newstead, if you bring up Newstead. Yeah, I made copies for everybody.
think this is what we're talking about. So it's not the whole thing, it's this part. Where you got.
Is it extra?
Sorry. I was making it big enough so we could all see them, because I'm blocking the back. So on Newstead, right, we did a 24 by 42, okay? 24 by 42, that gives you 1,008 square feet, okay? Now, if you look at the drawing, you see a common hall in the back and the stairway to the basement. We took that space out, okay? We took out closets. We took out what we have in place now, okay? Now, that square footage is 800 square feet. Now, this particular one, we did 2 bedrooms. We did 2 bedrooms, but you can see the family room is very small. In your kitchen and family room, your dining room and family room have to be part of it. You know what I mean? In the kitchen, I give a good sized kitchen, and I always put a walk-in shower for my bathrooms. And we try to do a double sink, right? So, but you can see all the square footage that we took out made the 800 square feet. And it's tight, bedrooms. They look big, but if you went through it, you could see how small they are. And regarding the septic systems, on every property that we do for the ADUs, we have to have a new septic design in place in case it fails. And once it fails, they have to put the new septic system in, based on the new, how many people are there, the bedrooms.
So I was gonna ask that question.
Yeah,
So
on the
currently,
bedrooms.
existing septic systems can be utilized
Yep.
with the ADU until it fails.
Yep.
So run it to failure.
In all these ADUs, it's more or less the husband and wife now living there, bringing people into the house. Meaning most of these, all the kids are all grown up. You know what I mean? But this particular one, the kids came back. So there's 2 people living in the house, main, and then there's 3 people living in the ADU. Because they want to keep that separation. So then you go to another one, if you go to 19 Chatfield, the first one, because of the property lines, so it's the far right in the back. So because of the property lines, this is a 1-bedroom, but we had to put the closet in the back. Do you see that in the far back corner? And that's where the bathroom is. And this little room is just to give a little space for the husband. This was an elderly couple that came home from Florida and now living with the parents, the owners. So it's not a huge bedroom, but it's a bedroom. Again, they have a good kitchen area, but the living space for the living room is pretty small, you know? And we wanted to add more, but we would have had to go all the way out back because of the property line. And we made like 3 different drawings for this home. We didn't end up doing, obviously, the garage with the room up above. We didn't do that. So my point is, so he's worried about making the ADUs too big, but they were gonna put a garage with a room up above with the ADU. You know what I mean? But that was for the homeowner, not for the ADU. And then if you go to another one, let me just go quickly through the ones I. So this one was
What's the address?
That's the address.
14
What is
Grouse.
the
14
address?
Grouse.
Oh, 14 Grouse, sorry. So that one was at 733, and then you see the hallway in the dwelling, that hallway area. We were counting that as part of the ADU and part of the homeowners. And we tried to make that the ADU, but we couldn't at the time with the building inspector we had. So we were fighting and arguing what we were gonna do. And the homeowners were pretty disappointed they couldn't get that square footage, you know? So that was that one. That's on a ranch. On Woodhawk. That's 17.
That's this one, okay.
King Arthur. So this was one in Londonderry. And they did theirs based on 40% of the existing home. They did 40% of that to be the dwelling for the ADU. But he just went with the space that he needed because we had property line issues on that.
What's their square footage in Londonderry?
Say it again?
What square footage do they allow in Londonderry?
40% of the existing dwelling.
So if you have a
Those houses
10,000
aren't huge
square
over there
foot
either.
home, you could have a 4,000 square foot.
Yeah.
ADU.
But it hurts the person that has a 1,500 square foot home, right? They can only do 40% of that. That's why the square footage, I don't think the percentage wouldn't work. So this one was, just to give you an idea.
This one's 768, 32 by 24.
Yeah. Yeah, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, 768. And then we have one, 6 Firefly. All the markings on it, but, so we had an unfinished storage area, closet, so on this one, there's a lot of roof lines. There's a lot of roof lines that take a lot of space in the addition. So what I did was try to use that space by putting things in the wall. As you can see where my drawing is, how I have, boxes near the dining room on the outside wall. I put things in the wall to help that space. And here, it seems like you have a good-sized bedroom, there's a lot of angles where the roof lines come down, you know, that take some of the space out. So, that's based on the 800 square feet. And then you have 11 Woodhawk. And what I try to do, so as you come in, the breezeway here, that wasn't part of the space. That was at the common area. And then you had the main part. And what I try to do to help with the space is if you look on the second page of the detail on A4, I try to put in big windows to make the space look bigger. You know what I mean? That gave a lot of openness. I put a window going up the stairway as well. So I think 1,200 square feet is the right number, because by the time you take that stairway out, by the time you take those common areas out, you're gonna get it to that 900 square feet or 1,200 square, you know what I mean? That 900 square feet, you know? So I think 1,200 square feet, foundation size, is the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And again, if anybody wants to see any of the projects, just to walk through and get some more information, I can make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else for public comment this evening? Yes, come forward.
Hi, Vincent Lamagna, 36 Woodhawk. My parents moved up here about 2 years ago, and I wanted to put an ADU on. And when I started looking around for sizes and requirements and things like that, I quickly got in touch with Mr. Grand, and we went through a bunch of different drawings trying to figure out layouts and stuff like that. At the time, we were restricted to 800 square feet, and when you take into fact the living spaces, kitchens, bathrooms, things like that, living rooms and all that, you chip away at that really quickly. I was really lucky with where I put mine, that it's basically just a square, rectangular property. I didn't have to do any crazy juts to the back, to the side, anything like that. But something that my parents really wanted and I couldn't give them was a second bedroom, because of giving them their own bathroom, their own kitchen, somewhat of a family room, putting in 2 closets so that we had a coat closet and a closet in the bedroom. Pierre also came out and put, as he said, an inset set of drawers and all that, which gave my mom more storage for, winter, summer clothes, which kind of helped out because there was one less thing that we had to put in the bedroom. So I think the 1,200 square foot is the right direction. I like that number, especially just going wall to wall, because as you said, when you start taking out all those spots that are just, bathrooms, closets, things like that, it adds up quickly. So I think it's the right direction. With the septic, I was worried about the septic because I have, I had a 3-bedroom house. There's only 2 of us living in there, so it was technically 2 bedrooms being used, but then adding 2 more people, I was worried about the septic. But again, they did their work, they did what they needed to, and, everything's been good so far. I've had no issues, but that plan is in place that if we ever have to change it, rip it out, then it's there. So I think all the work is being done properly to account for the different issues and concerns. I do see where the other gentleman is concerned about water coming to the town, electricity coming in the town, things like that. Those are concerns, but it doesn't matter where you go in this country, you're going to have those concerns. The infrastructure that was built 50, 60, 80, 100 years ago is not up to what we do nowadays. So those have to be analyzed, but they also have to be, what is the difference between putting in a 3,000 square foot house somewhere and putting in a 1,200 square foot ADU. Those types of things, I see where they're coming from, but at the same point in time, it's my property, I pay for it, I own it. I would like to be able to put my parents on there, things like that. So I definitely like the language that's in there now. There's a lot of updates that you did, and I agree with those. So I just wanted to say thank you, and I think this is going in the right direction.
Anybody else? Public comment for this amendment? All right. Seeing no further comment on the ADU discussion, this time I'm going to close public comment on ADU. I'm going to bring it to board. Any questions for the board regarding this zoning amendment this evening?
I would say that Mr. Peoples has a valid point, and concern is, if you flip-flop it, most of the time we're all thinking that this is gonna be someplace our elderly parents are gonna live in. But it could go the opposite way, where they decide to make it a 2-bedroom and rent it out. As long as the family owns and lives in the principal dwelling, you could rent out the ADU. So then you could have a husband, wife, and a child. So now you have a rental unit that's not collecting impact fees. Taxes will go up a little bit, but it's not gonna offset. That's, so that's the concern, that's the flip of the concern. We looked into an ADU for my in-laws years ago, and we quickly realized, my mother-in-law realized 800 square feet is just too small for her. Especially when you start considering, you go from a 4-bedroom home to a 1-bedroom home, and my father-in-law wanted an office, it's like, how do you squeeze that in there? It's a big closet. But then we also get into the discussions where there was a lot of ambiguity on what does 800 square foot count as? At the time, we were told it would be the stairway going from the garage into the house, and it would be, the closets and everything, so that made it even smaller.
Anybody else?
So I wasn't, oh, sorry.
You go first.
Chair.
Yeah, you can go.
So I wasn't here for the last one, but I was reading the minutes before coming tonight and saw that there was a lot of discussion, you know? But I wonder, Jay, could you, I just want to make sure I'm understanding things correctly and that I'm not assuming incorrectly. So as I read, the shall not exceed 75% of the total living space of the principal dwelling with a maximum size of 1,200. Effectively, what you're saying there is, the eligibility to even reach 1,200 square feet would be a what? Do the calculation.
Anyone with 1,600 square feet would be able to
1,600
build an
square
ADU of the maximum size. So that
Yeah.
almost the majority of single-family homes.
But if
in
I
town.
had but if I had a 3,000 square foot house, let's say, the biggest ADU I could put on there is 1,200 square feet.
That's right.
Regardless of the fact that 1,200 is, 40%. Right? Am I, okay.
That's right.
All right, I thought I understood that, all right.
Yeah, so the concern we had with that, and I believe it was probably Travis that brought it up, is, as I mentioned earlier, if you have a 10,000 square foot house, if we didn't have any stipulations in there, what can you get away with?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
need to-
And I can speak to that a little more. We were particularly thinking about like 3A, a lot of older homes, kind of World War II pre-war homes that are small cottage types. And we're like, well, a 1,200 square foot ADU is the size of, if not larger than those existing homes. So we're thinking golden rules of proportions have kind of been done away with. But there is something to be said about kind of having size, be reasonable. So at least we can guarantee that the ADUs are not going to be bigger than the house for those real kind of small types.
yeah. I mean, my concern with ADUs has always been, and don't get me wrong, I've considered it. My mother lived with us until she passed, and it would have been nice to have had her own independent space. So I do like the idea of an ADU, especially with the intergenerational households that seems to be coming back, which is kind of nice. But the thing that I worry about as a single family homeowner is the notion that, Steve just brought up, that you can rent these things out, and now all of a sudden you have a neighborhood with the potential for, renters or transients. They could only maybe rent for a year or something, and then somebody else moves in. So as a homeowner, who my expectation was, I moved into a neighborhood where it was all single family homeowners. That's a little concerning, I'm not gonna lie. And it seems like the bigger that you allow for it, the more possibility that might be. But I'm not convinced that 1,200 is that crazy big, I guess is where I'm saying. That the quirky calculation that I read in the minutes and everything that goes into it, is that a standard that's put by the state? Is that specific to our building inspector?
Yeah, I have not encountered that elsewhere.
I haven't either, and that's why I'm like, okay. Do you think that, how much what percentage of square footage are we talking about that eliminates in
Well, it
your
depends. I think-
typical ADU?
I think it'd be hard to say, but I think we just had one example here where it was over 1,000 square feet, and by going through those elimination processes, they got it to the
Down to
800.
800.
So that seems, I think that's really been the drivers, is I think it's been motivated to try to help people get what they were looking for. if I don't want to suppose what other people are thinking, but that seems to be the motivation, so that effectively we have 1,000 or 1,000 square foot plus ADUs that are being permitted. If you went with the perimeter of, the structure, by doing it that way, you were effectively increasing the size that we would allow.
So the calculation isn't based on, or doesn't follow the rules that you had clarified some language in here where it talked about, the living space definition.
Yes.
So is that what we were trying to get at with at the heart of, by defining total living space?
Yes,
And
by saying
get into the calculation?
exactly what the total living space is.
Okay.
And this applies to anything, not just an ADU, because you theoretically could run
Yeah.
into the same scenario of if you put it as a percentage of the overall dwelling.
Yeah.
Now you're gonna start saying, well, I'm gonna take out closets in the house and change
Yeah.
that. So this should
Yeah,
be,
no,
this will
this-
apply to anything.
I was gonna say, this definition squares with, I'm an appraiser, and this squares with what we do and how we value, so that makes sense to me.
And that's what we
Last
tried
week's
to do with this.
discussion didn't at all. That was interesting.
It was interesting.
Okay. That's all I had.
Okay.
So yeah, Jay, have you seen any communities be able to have impact fees collected for ADUs?
Yes, we definitely have communities that are collecting impact fees for ADUs. Some are charging the same rate per unit. Some go by square footage. So an ADU in that case would always be less. So we do have some towns that calculate it that way. And then we do have some towns that calculate the ADU, if they go by dwelling unit and not by square footage, some might say the ADU is 50%. So it's kind of all over the map, but most towns are collecting it. The question is just, are they collecting a smaller amount or the full amount?
Yeah, and is Litchfield doing anything right now?
We are.
So I guess we'll have to decide what we want to do about that.
Yeah.
Leave it or change it. Because the additional unit can drive some impact to the town. I don't think square footage really affects it, because if someone just wants more luxurious space, it's a little bit more wood for a fire, but
Right.
I don't see any more use of town resources really.
Right. I think the argument for those who discount it is mainly schools. If you're limiting it to 2 bedrooms, you'll have less of a school impact than a 4-bedroom house. So some discount it for that reason. Some towns also have the same discount for an ADU as they do for elderly housing. And in some of those communities, they charge the full impact fee for everything except schools. They don't charge for schools. So there are communities that have done that also.
But yeah, I could definitely see a scenario where an ADU can result in services to the school district. There's nothing preventing people from having family-aged kids there. But definitely less than a normal single-family home, though.
But does that belong in here? That doesn't, right?
Probably belongs in the impact fee schedule.
Yeah.
Not in this section. So that's probably a conversation that we should probably have, but it's probably separate
Separate
from
and
this
distinct
ordinance.
from this. Yeah,
Yep.
An ADU is new development, and new development is covered by impact fees, so
that's a good point.
you could reasonably assume that an impact fee would apply to an ADU.
So, we did close public input. If the board is willing to allow, because assume you have a question.
I have a question.
So there is no public input at this time because we closed it. But if the will of the board, if the board wants to reopen public input to have you speak, we can do that.
It's regarding what you're speaking
Well, that's up to the board.
That's okay.
Okay, all right, so if you want to ask your question, I would come
So
forward.
the question is, so when I pull a permit for every job, I think it's based on the total cost of the job on my permit fee. So I think it's based on the total cost. I think that's how they're doing it now.
That's the permit fee, that's not the impact fee.
No, but the permit fee, but I'm talking about the whole job, so if I'm doing $300,000 job, this is what I'm paying for that permit. If I'm doing a $200,000 job, it's less. You know what I mean? So it's based on the total.
But that's the building permit you're talking about.
Correct.
Yeah, that's
But
separate from the
that's
impacts.
based on the whole project.
But that's not the way impact fees are charged.
Impact fee comes after.
So how do they get the number that they're charging for the permit right now?
For the permit, I don't know, but for the impact
You know what I
fees, it's
mean?
been
Because
set.
everyone is different.
Yeah, with, yeah,
It's
with,
two separate issues.
yeah, that's definitely separate from impact fees, and impact fees are set on the impact fee schedule, which this board
I'm sure that
sets.
happens when they issue the CO.
Do we have an idea of what the impact fee would be?
Yeah, you assess it at
Oh,
permit
okay.
and collect it, so yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's a separate issue. Okay. Now, is this the first public hearing on this, or did you have one
This
last?
is second.
Second
This is
public hearing,
This is the second public hearing.
because we made substantive
You made
changes.
substantive changes.
There is always, we do have time to have a third if that's the will of the board.
All right, I was curious.
So we can choose to send it to the ballot, we could choose to send it to another public hearing, could choose not to move it forward at all, could.
I just had a quick question for Jay real quick. I feel like I've asked it before, but are you aware of any other communities in the area off the top of your head that allow up to 1,200 square foot, or would we be alone in doing that?
Yeah, in fact, I just distributed one,
In
and
the
Nashua
Nashua?
just adopted it, I think, last week,
Okay.
and they did adopt
Mhm.
up to 1,200.
And it would just be us two then, at present time, that you know of?
Yes, I'd have to double check. I think Hudson is moving forward. I think theirs is also, they're proposing 1,200, I believe, last I saw. That could have changed in,
Yeah.
the hearing process, but that was the last I saw.
Thank you.
The largest I know is Limeboro at 2,000. Yeah. They got a lot of land.
They got a lot of land.
A lot of
Yeah.
accessory.
They got
But
a
yeah,
lot
we-
of land.
Yeah, we can't forget our neighboring town, Londonderry, with its more generous requirements too, with
Right,
the
40%,
percentage base, which
Mhm.
that could make some huge ADUs based on that.
And they don't have a maximum at all with the 40% rule? Are we aware of that?
I'll take a look at their.
Oh. I would be a little hesitant to believe that Londonderry would permit that.
I am looking for their requirements right now. Okay, it just says, please answer this following five questions. Total living area of the principal dwelling is this many square feet, times 40% is the allowed for accessory living unit.
No
So,
limit stated.
yeah, there's no limit that I can see.
20,000 square foot home, 8,000 square foot ADU.
That many big size, yeah, in there.
But they are still limiting it to 2 bedrooms, so I can't imagine someone putting a 3,000 foot ADU with 2 bedrooms.
2 bedrooms,
Big
kitchen,
bedrooms.
living room, a grand ballroom. His friend Cato needs a guest house to live in.
It was his and hers offices.
And yeah, I don't have a concern about the proposal because it's probably going to be no bigger than some of the ones people are managing to slip through the current interpretation of square footage.
That was an issue, though. I know I wasn't here at the last meeting, but I was talking to someone who does engineering in Massachusetts, and he was telling me that one of the things with ADUs is the septic. Because once you increase the size or, bring in more people, that does definitely have an impact on the septic system. It's certainly something that's being, in Massachusetts, they're dealing with that issue.
And they do have to get a septic design in as a part of the process, and I believe that an ADU is done as an apartment on the total bedroom, so, if they have a one-bedroom ADU, they have to add 1.5 bedrooms worth of, gallons per day to the septic design. So it's not just another bedroom or two, it's 1.5 bedrooms or 2.5 additional bedrooms, I believe.
Cause you got a whole kitchen and
Yeah.
you got everything.
So, yeah, it's definitely interesting that they let them use the old one temporarily until it fails. And I can imagine there are definitely instances where people don't promptly take care of that, but they're gonna have to at some point, and because eventually sewage is gonna back into the house. So, it'll get taken care of eventually if it becomes a problem. And then they have an expensive bill.
Any other questions? So obviously this has gone to public hearing. This is the second public hearing. What was the will of the board? What do you guys want to do? And obviously we can have another, I think you said there's time for another public hearing, if necessary, if you have further questions or.
And just to confirm the wording, so the current wording, is that considered clear that the maximum size of 1,200 is for the ADUs, is not talking about the principal dwelling in that scenario?
Good catch.
I thought so, but if it could be worded better, we certainly could word it better.
I think, yeah, just if we wanna make it a little clearer, we could say with a maximum ADU size of 1,200 square feet. Just add ADU.
The maximum ADU size.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if we wanted to make it cleaner, we could just move the shall not exceed 1,200 square feet but
So next,
One thing we also have to keep in mind is size is not the proper term. Total living space is the proper term. Or total living space, so.
that's a better
That
way to
sounds
phrase it, yes.
I think that answers your question, Mr. Chair. I think it's
That's
going
it.
to
Yeah.
the third, and frankly, you know, this is a big deal with need for most public input. I
Right.
think that's
I agree.
not a bad thing.
No.
Jay, would you be able to read that version to us back?
Yes, the total living space of the ADU shall not exceed 75% of the total living space of the principal dwelling, with a maximum ADU total living space of 12,000 square feet. It does roll a little. I'm sorry, 1,200. It does roll off a little awkwardly.
He's looking at us going,
I think if we put the total living space of the ADU shall not exceed 1,200 square feet and 75% of the total living space of the principal dwelling, then you don't even have to say maximum size.
Yeah, that would be less redundant, yeah.
oh yeah, good point.
All right, I'm sorry, tell me that again.
The total living space of the ADU shall not exceed 1,200 square feet, and then the rest with a period after dwelling.
And 75% of the total living space?
The total living space of the ADU shall not exceed 1,200 square feet and 75, yeah. Then we can just, is that good?
If we wanna make it even clearer, we could say whichever is less.
Right.
Well, I think that's up to them, isn't it?
It shall not exceed 1,200 and it shall not exceed 75% unless it, with a minimum of 750.
Isn't it or rather than and?
They're both a limit. It cannot exceed 1,200 feet, and it cannot exceed 75%.
Because the or would allow, I have a 3,000 square foot home and I'm gonna go with 75.
Yeah.
One day.
It's very important to get this language right.
All right, so what, I'm still uncertain. What are we going with?
So
Tell me slowly so I can actually write it down.
third.
The total living space of the ADU.
Shall not exceed 1,200 square feet.
Okay, right, I'm
And-
writing it down. So,
I'll pause.
And maybe we should
1,200 square
repeat,
feet,
and
okay.
shall not exceed.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And shall not exceed 75% of the total living space of the principal dwelling.
Beautiful.
exceed 75% of the total living space of the principal dwelling, and then we strike after dwelling, the rest of that sentence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Got it.
Awesome.
Just want to make sure we had a few iterations. so.
with you.
What would Chat GPT say?
I know, I was gonna say, run that through and see what happens.
And we're good with the definition for total living space.
I am.
And
Yeah, are there any discrepancies, Letha, that, between how, that and how you typically do that in the appraisal field?
Well, I'm probably not your best answer on that because I don't do residential, I do commercial. However, yes, that is consistent with the measurements and, basically the ANSI standards, if you really want to get technical.
Yeah, I was doing some research into the ANSI standards, and they're definitely stricter and require
Oh, yeah.
computer calculations to a specific
Yep.
level of precision.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't need.
But
to
absent
specify
that, the basics around above ground living space as defined in here is appropriate.
I did see more elaborate calculations, but
Yeah,
I felt it was excessive and too difficult for a layperson to understand.
Yeah, it's not
What
necessary.
what additional requirements did you see?
How to calculate areas under slopes, I mean,
Yeah,
different
don't even-
ways of calculating
Yeah,
different
knee
areas.
walls
And
and, you know,
So
is it
I just
half,
felt it
is
was
it
overly
three-quarters?
complicated
Don't even go
and-
there, like.
Yeah, I think this is a big improvement having this definition. And I guess before we send it to public hearing, can you just read what you have written down just to make sure?
Yeah, so far, so the change is just to that section, so I'll say the total living space of the ADU shall not exceed 1,200 square feet and shall not exceed 75% of the total living space of the principal dwelling, period.
Sounds good to me.
Mhm.
I'm ready to send this to the next public
If
hearing.
you wish to make a motion, you can certainly do so.
I'll make a motion to send the amended, section 507 accessory dwelling units to public hearing, at our next meeting, which is January 20th.
Yeah, I'll make sure I have 10 days to post, 10 days ahead of the meeting, and don't count the day of the meeting. I don't have
Let's
my
just
calendar.
double check that, but I'm pretty sure we do. Yeah, the 10 days would be Saturday, so if we post it on Friday, we're good.
What's the date of the meeting?
The 20th.
Okay.
So if we post it this Friday, the 9th, we should be fine.
Yeah, it would have to, yeah, they don't count the day of posting and the day
Right.
of, so 20,
So the
post
9th
it this
will work.
Friday.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll second Jared's motion.
Okay, so I have a second by Travis. Any further discussion? All right, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, anybody abstained? Motion passes 7, 700. Okay, so the next public hearing will be January 20th for this particular amendment. All right,
One down, 11 to go.
we'll move on to the next.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Again, I'll invite you guys, if you do wanna do a walkthrough, just get ahold of me and I can have that. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Home occupations, section 504 by conditional use permit. Jay?
All right, so what this item proposes to do is to amend section 504, which is our home occupation section, to clarify that home occupations are permitted by conditional use permit. So the reason for that is because right now, the planning board approval is required for certain types of home occupations, but we actually don't say under what authority that is. Is it site plan review? What is it? And that really came to a head, came to light, because currently we do permit, family daycare, family childcare, as a home occupation that requires planning board review. The recent change to state law requires that all communities allow family home and group daycare either by right or conditional use. So that required us to say, if we're going to require planning board approval and not allow it by right, the only way to do that is a conditional use. So that prompted a suggestion that we change all home occupations that require planning board approval to require a conditional use permit. And that includes family home daycare and family childcare. And then there are a few other changes that were also suggested to comply with statute. Those are just using the exact statutory definition versus our close but not exact definition because of the changes that were made. And then as a result of at the last hearing, we did use the term allowed as a conditional use or permitted as a conditional use. We also used conditional use permit. The suggestion is that we always are consistent, use the same term, conditional use permit. So those are the changes that you'll see. Again, I'm going to flow through it, hitting on the major changes. The first, and I'm on page 4, section 50403, where it currently says in the existing ordinance, home occupations require planning board approval. Again, planning board approval is struck, and we say a conditional use permit. Moving on down to the bottom of the page, section 504.4. We had used the term family child care facilities, so we are now parroting what the statute says, which is family home and group child care is how it's phrased. So that's just taking that and then adding the language conditional use permit.
So should we change 504.4 to say family home and group childcare instead of family childcare facilities?
Yes, you're right, we should. We should, where we say family child care facilities, we should say family home and group. Yes, we should.
Also, this is not substantive, but while we're there, if we could just change 504.4 to 504.04.
Yes.
Thank you.
Flipping the page to 5. Both of these, the changes that you see here at the top, that is in the bold italics, is simply taking the language from the statute as it exists now. It is the way of saying, you're allowed the 5 hours on school days, et cetera, and then there is this caveat that's now added, provided that the after-school and holiday increase in capacity is permitted by the state fire code and in compliance with any local ordinance. So that's directly from the statute. And then the next section, we did not have at all. We just simply had family child care facilities. The state has 2 groupings. The second one is family group daycare home facilities. And this is once again taken completely out of the statute. So we didn't alter it in any way. So that's essentially it. Then going down towards the bottom of page 5, once again, we just added by conditional use permit. To be clear, I'm now turning the page onto page 6, and there are no additions on No changes on the language on page 6. But I would say, it's arguable whether that's a substantive change, but it's when in doubt, consider it a substantive change, we have the time, so.
What section was that? The change from Steve said?
Oh, so right here to section 504.4, which should be 04,
Yeah.
we just would be adding family, home and group childcare to this,
To the title.
to this title, right? And we will be adding the O.
I don't think that's substantive enough.
I don't think the O is, no, I don't think so. Oh, even this?
Yeah, it's,
It's the call of the board as to whether you think that's substantive or not.
Well, at this time, I will open this up to public comment. Home occupations, section 504 by conditional use permit. Does any members of the public wish to comment regarding this change?
Rena Karen on 144 Pinecrest. So I run a little CSA business for farm vegetables, and I'm just wondering if I am part of this home occupation category.
Yes, so that would depend on whether or not if you fall under the definition of agriculture. Do you produce on the property?
Yes,
So you would probably be considered a farm stand?
yes.
Which is, so that's under a separate section
Okay.
of our ordinance, it's not considered a home occupation.
Okay, so I would not be required to get this conditional use permit.
No, this only applies
Right.
to specific.
Farm stands we deal with
Yes.
separately.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Hearing none, I will now close public input on home occupations, section 504 by conditional use permit. Bring it back to the board. Any questions from the board regarding this?
Yeah, looking at definitions of substantive change, I don't think it alters anything. It's just organization.
True. Yeah, I guess I would agree, it's changing, it's just correcting the title.
I'd agree, and I'd say, I mean, if we're comfortable with it, we can send it to the ballot, correct?
Yeah.
And I think maybe take some clutter off the agenda for the upcoming public hearing. I mean, people see all these kind of things, like what's really important, whereas I feel like we want the feedback on the ADU stuff.
And the main,
This is not as popular.
and this entire change basically is just compliance with state regulations. I
Right.
don't think, like, we already had public hearings on these initial requirements for ADUs, so, I mean,
Yes.
Anyone want to make a motion?
so. So I guess I'll make a motion to send the amended section 504 home occupations to warrant.
Okay. I have a motion by Jared. Do I have a second?
I'll say.
Second,
Sorry.
Travis?
Anyone? Yeah, I'll second. Does anyone know when the town meeting is off the top of their head? Do we have to say that in the motion?
March 10th.
March 10th. Thank you.
But you have deliberative session before that.
Thank you.
So yeah, so to clarify, my motions for the non-substantive amendments to the section and are to the public warrant for the public meeting, as we just mentioned.
For deliberative. Okay. We have a motion, we have a second by Travis, we've had discussion, any further discussion? All right, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Anybody abstaining? All right, motion passes 7-0-0. All right, moving on to next item.
3. So item 3 is, would be an entirely new section of the zoning ordinance, and the intent here is to address solar and the different types of solar installations that are possible. And this is really motivated by really a couple of things, but primarily that right now the ordinance in Litchfield is completely silent on solar. So we know we have solar in town. I guess ambiguity as to how it's permitted or whether it's permitted, but also I think there is a sense that inevitably we're going to see more proposals coming forward, and those could well be for different types of solar arrays under different conditions. So I did put together a brief presentation, which I could not access last time, so this time I saved it as a PDF. Just to kind of run through some of the examples. I will say I struggled to find some good ones. If I'd spent more time, I probably would have. So the first examples that we're going to show are for, and these are terms that we use in the proposed ordinance, so one of the reasons why I'm showing them. So the first is accessory use solar examples, and the first one is a ground-mounted residential system, and this is actually a system that exists today in Litchfield. Next is, again, this is another example of accessory use solar, and this is a roof-mounted residential solar system, and we've all seen probably plenty of these. Oops, go to the next one. I struggled to find good ones of this. This is a roof-mounted system. Actually, let me see if I can adjust this so you can see it a little bit more. This is accessory use, and this is just an example of one on a municipal building. This is an odd-looking picture. Looks like it's flying, but this is actually the Lake Street Fire Station in Nashville. This is, I think I have it down here. So this would be an example of what we call dual-use solar. And this is, I'm sorry, this is accessory use solar, not dual use. And this is a parking lot canopy. And again, this is one of the uses that we talk about specifically in the ordinance. And we're tending to see these mostly on office sites. They're expensive, so you don't see a lot of them. They're usually mission-driven, I guess I would say at this point. This is another example of dual use. I hear a lot about this in literature. I struggled to find a New Hampshire example, but this is dual use solar on actually an agricultural site. This is solar that's co-located with a Christmas tree farm, and it's on property owned by the Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forests. So this happens to be in Bethlehem. I know there's more out there, but they can be hard to find and be descriptive. This is another example of dual use solar. This is on, I think it's Savage Road in Milford. It's dual use, although it's hard to see. This isn't in an industrial zone, but kind of in the back here, I couldn't find a good picture that got a good angle that got the array and the buildings. But you can see that there are self-storage units in the back here, so that's what's co-located on this property. It's kind of half self-storage units, half a solar array. This is also dual-use solar, although really the scale of it is quite large. If it wasn't co-located on a parcel with another use, it certainly could be an example of primary use solar. This is Pennachuck Waterworks property in Nashua. And in the foreground here, on the lower part of the slide is the Pennachuck Middle School in Nashua. Oh, and that's my last one. So that's kind of why I mentioned it that way. I could not find, although I'm sure they're out there, a good example of a primary use in this area. I know they exist, but I didn't want to find one from another state, so they're out there. This is kind of what they would look like, again, if you didn't have that other one there. The other example I had was Fidelity. I think I showed that previously. That's also dual use because it's on their campus. Their campus is just 500 plus acres, so it's enormous. So that was just intended to give some visuals for the language that we're talking about. And so now I'll go through that at a somewhat high level. We didn't have a lot of conversation around this at the public hearing, but there was some. So I will hit on the changes that were made from the last time. But essentially, kind of going through the key requirements. So this again would be a new section of the ordinance. It would be section 2300. And yes, 2300. I think I've got to make a correction in my reference. And bottom line, this ordinance would apply to all solar energy systems in the town of Litchfield after the effective date of this ordinance. It goes through providing a variety of definitions of the different types of solar. I'm not going to go through all of those, but the most important, we've got the dual use, as I mentioned, and then we talk about different requirements for roof-mounted, ground-mounted, et cetera. And then a lot of these are other terms that are used. Again, I'm not going to go through all of the definitions. I am now on page 7. And at the bottom of page 7, we have general requirements. And so these go through the different types. The first is accessory use solar systems. There was some concern expressed at the last public hearing that it was ambiguous as to whether or not planning board site plan approval was required for accessory residential and for roof-mounted systems. So if there's ambiguity, let's make it clear. So we added the specific language, planning board site plan approval is not required for roof-mounted systems. That means roof-mounted systems on any type of building, and accessory residential, turn on to page 8, and accessory residential ground-mounted systems. So now I am on page 8. Just under subsection B, I'm not going to go through these in detail, but there are also design standards that do apply across the board. So although you don't need site plan approval for a roof-mounted system, there still are design requirements that apply. And these are mainly to try to control how it looks on the roof, that the panels don't, go over the pitch of the roof, etc. And there is a maximum height for a ground-mounted system. It also requires that ground-mounted solar systems do have to meet setback requirements, building setback requirements. There is a screening requirement. There is, lot coverage requirements, and then we do note that you have to meet all applicable codes. The next section is specific to ground-mounted solar systems that are either dual use or primary use. So this is key because dual use systems are permitted as a conditional use in the northern and southern commercial, we call them commercial service districts. These are basically the industrial districts that are located in the northern and southern ends of town. So those would be permitted in those districts. And they would be permitted in the residential district only on parcels of 10 acres or more, that's dual use, when it's in association with active agriculture. So that essentially allows dual use along with agricultural uses. Next, we get into a series of requirements around how the array is situated on the property, how it's sited, including setbacks and fencing, requirements related to stormwater management. Essentially, you do have to go through planning board site plan review. These are additional requirements that would apply specifically to solar, so that's why they're in here. And then next, submission requirements for ground-mounted primary and dual-use solar systems. Once again, we note site plan review is required. And in addition to the normal submission requirements, you also have additional information that you have to provide related to the facility area, its siting, and this is really because there are some things that are specific to solar that we really do want to see, including describing relevant view sheds because we're concerned about the appearance. And equipment. Also, making sure that there's an operation and maintenance plan. There's been, some concern expressed of, gee, could you just kind of leave it to grow wild and unkept? So we want to see an operation and maintenance plan. Needs to be an emergency response plan. And then finally, there needs to be a plan for abandonment and decommissioning. And this also notes that the board could require that a bond be posted, to cover potentially the cost of any decommissioning and removal. And I should have noted, I didn't as I was flying through it, but the northern commercial industrial zone is really pretty well isolated. We do have I think we changed it, I think it was a 200-foot requirement setback requirement in there, and let me just double check, because I think we did talk about whether or not to increase that, and I thought we did. I'm gonna find that. So that is the overall, but I am gonna specifically look to see.
It's like it's 100 feet from Charles Bancroft Highway.
100. So there was discussion at the last public hearing about whether or not that should be increased.
100 feet is double the standard setback.
Yes. So that's it.
Okay, well, thank you very much. At this time, I'll open it up to public comment. Any members of the public wish to comment on this particular? Okay. Hearing none, I will close public input at this time. Bring it back to the board. Any questions for the board regarding the ordinance?
No, I think last time, Jay, we were talking about like examples of screening and stuff, but now that we have put in the site plan approval, I feel like the board will have some say, and I feel pretty comfortable without needing any photos. Well, I feel pretty comfortable with this version.
I do see it goes from 2302 definitions, and it jumps to 2304 general requirements.
Yeah, I noticed that. I kind of
So it's
flew
just
by
a
that
number.
comment, but I will fix the numbering.
Perfect. And you'll carry the decimals down too to like the end, right?
Yeah, what happens with this is it tries periodically, it will automatically number,
Yeah.
and then you gotta go back and
Yeah.
remember to know or
And then-
renumber from here. So I'll go back and make sure I fixed all those.
Okay. Thank you so much.
So what is the will of the board? Do we want to?
I think it's, yeah, I think it's ready with the non-substantive numbering changes.
Okay.
100 feet. I did read that in the minutes. I understood there was a concern, but it's double the, I mean.
Yeah, I personally,
More you got at 100 feet, it's a pretty
Yeah.
far distance.
yeah, and we'll probably require some vegetation between the road and
Yeah.
that. And I don't find solar that ugly, so some might, but.
Well, I do, but. But our opinions concur here in the sense that I think it's enough room and buffering and, yeah.
Yeah, I think the quality of the buffer matters more than the distance.
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll make I will move that where's the language? Hold on, I wanna make sure I read the right
Okay.
language here. That, we add this new section of the zone ordinance, to address our requirement for solar energy systems, to the warrant.
Okay. I have a motion by Letha. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Jared. Any further discussion All right, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstained, motion passes 7-0-0. Thank you.
And I'd like to thank Jay for, this was nothing a few months ago. We went from like 0 to 60, and I mean, you did a fabulous job
Thank you.
taking a lot of material, boiling it down to something that was cohesive, we understand it, and I'm
And applicable to
really
which we
appreciate all your work, your hard work on
Very
this.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
And filtering through a whole lot of feedback from our last workshop to really distill this into something that is, we can kind of send, so thanks.
Next two are simpler.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's true.
So foundation certification, section 409.
Yes, so this was really, this came to us through the building inspector. We have had some challenges where basically buildings have been built. They don't meet the setback requirement. They've been wound up going to the zoning board to get relief. You're kind of at a point where it's too late. And one of the things that we noted is most towns do require that the foundation be certified prior to proceeding with construction. So this is simply amending the ordinance to in fact require that prior to framing, you do have to submit a certified foundation plan to the building inspector for approval.
So the only question I have is, should we mention easements in this requirement, or is that typically not required on a foundation certification plan?
What do you mean by that?
Easements.
Easements, like they're generally
but-
easements on land
Yeah,
on a property that might affect the ability to build there.
but wouldn't that come in with your setbacks and?
I don't think a setback is not necessarily an easement. An easement is a section of a property where someone has, where there are different rights specified.
But doesn't this address all in that introductory language where he talks about the plan must include dimensions,
foundation
distances to all
in the
property
easement.
lines, setback lines?
Wouldn't that all be addressed in the kind of normal project approval processes? Isn't this just different from, specifically for the foundation certification?
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, should we explicitly mention easements or not?
We could, and the intent was to make sure you met setbacks.
Yeah.
But if we had a concern over easements, you could certainly say the plan should show easements.
Because I do know that, yeah, it says wetland locations, but I
Yeah.
do know that, like, my property, for example, has an easement in it that basically says you can't build there because there's some wetlands nearby, but there are no wetlands on my property.
We could certainly add it. If we were to add it, I would say, plan must include foundation dimensions, distance to all property setbacks, et cetera, and I would probably say easements after setback lines, and any wetland locations, et cetera. So if we felt that was important, we could certainly add it.
No harm in being thorough. Do you
Yes.
think it's necessary to say must be submitted to the building inspector, or is that just implied, for clarity?
May require
Well,
requirement for issue finds to
no.
location of foundation.
If we're gonna
Must be
add
submitted.
easements anyway, must be submitted to the building inspector, sure.
It should be building inspector or the building inspector or their designee or the building department or its designee or anything like that.
We could say building official, what does the ordinance say?
No, we
Yeah.
just say the inspector.
I think it would, because if we didn't have one, we would have an acting one, we would have someone.
Yeah, doesn't that constitute their office, the business of the building inspector, I would imagine?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And that is the person you do want to have
Yeah.
review it, so, yeah. So I'll add that on line 3.
Building official? Maybe.
Do we use building official in the
I-
ordinance?
We use inspector pretty
Use
frequently
inspector,
in our
yeah.
existing ordinance.
I know, it's terrible.
But that's a valid point along these lines, right?
Right. And that would be substantive, these changes would be
Yeah.
substantive, so, yeah. Yes, I can do that. That's it.
All right, at this time, I'll open this up to public comment, section 400. General provisions regarding foundation certification plans. Hearing none, I will close public input and bring it back to the board. The board wish to proceed. So we're gonna have Jay make the changes. Do we want another
What have to,
hearing,
You have to
given
or
the
substantive,
circumstances?
yeah.
Yeah, it's substantive.
yeah, especially adding easements, I think is substantive, so.
So does anyone want to make a motion to,
So I'll make a motion to send the amended, section 409 foundation certification plan proposal to public hearing on our next meeting on January 20th.
okay, I have a motion by Jared. Do I have a second?
Oh, second.
Second by Jess. Any further discussion? All right. As to this, then is section 400. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstained, motion passes 7-0-0. Okay, thank you.
Finally, on the planning board's list, finally, this is a really simple one. The existing impact fee statute has a pretty extensive list of things that you can charge impact fees for. And because the list is so specific, it has been interpreted that public works facilities, because they're not expressly listed, you can't collect impact fees for them. And so there was a change that passed in the last legislative session that specifically added public works facilities. So this simply amends the town's ordinance to allow the town to collect impact fees for public works facilities.
And is that the statute basically based off of the?
It's exactly how it's worded in the statute. It's, these three words have been added, so if we add them to our ordinance, the town could then use impact fees for public work facilities, which I think is something the town would like to do.
And we will open this up to public comment, this section 1300, to allow impact fees to be assessed for public works facilities. Any members of the public wish to comment on this amendment? Okay, hearing none, I will close public input and bring it back to the board. The board. Motion? It's pretty.
Can we just send it to the ballot?
Good, if you want.
I will make a motion, Mr. Chair, to amend section 1301.03 to allow impact fees to be assessed for public works facilities and send that to the town meeting ballot on March the 10th.
Okay, I have a motion by Travis. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Jesse. Any further discussion? All right, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of the amendment to section 1300, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Anybody abstaining? All right, motion passes 7-0-0. Thank you. Okay.
Takes us to the petition warrant.
Yes, petition article to removing zoning section 1504.00A, no signs on Albuquerque Ave. Vote by planning board for the March ballot. Jay, you wanna?
So this is something that, came forward, and we discussed this, I think, a lot at the public hearing, at the last public hearing. And essentially, this is really a very straightforward suggestion. Right now, under the ordinance, you are not allowed to post signs on Albuquerque unless they are, as noted, town or state highway direction and regulatory signs. So those are currently the only ones allowed. And there has been concern expressed, particularly on people who, from people who wanted to post signs related to various civic, social functions that may happen, and those are not permitted. So the board actually, struggled with this issue. I think we looked to come up with some language that might work. So the planning board had initially proposed an amendment, and we definitely had a lot of discussion around what it would look like, what would exceptions look like, et cetera. But at the same time, there was this petition article that came forward independently, and the proponents of that did speak at the last public hearing to their reasons, and I think the conclusion was it's going to be confusing to the voters to have two different articles on the ballot relating to the same issue, and what would happen if both of them passed. So I think the board decided not to move forward with one, but of course the petition one is moving forward as it must. So in this case, the action for the board is not whether or not to move it to the ballot. It is whether or not to recommend or not recommend. And that would appear on the ballot. The planning board's recommendation would appear on the ballot.
And you will see the vote, so.
Yes, and you will see the vote.
All of our individual votes will be visible.
But beyond that, of course, the board can't change the language, can't make any, the only action is to vote one way or the other.
All right, well, again, I'll open it up to public comment if any members of the public wish to comment on the petition article. Yes.
Yet again, Ray Peoples, 205 Charles Bancroft Highway. I spent a lot of time on the planning board, as many of you know, so I don't often think that we made bad decisions in the past. I usually think they're pretty good. But in this particular case, I think we made an error. By limiting the signs on Albuquerque, it's the only road in town that you can't put a sign on if you're running for election. Can't put a sign on if we're advertising for a parade or a church event or anything, any kind of temporary signage. The highway department collects them, and which is definitely not a good practice, especially with election signs. So I'd love to see the planning board move this forward with your recommendation. I signed the petition, and I think it's the right thing to do. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no other members of the public, I'll close public input, bring it back to the board. How do we want to proceed with this? What's the recommendation going to be? Do we have any questions?
So yeah, the main concern with this petition is that it will change the character of the neighborhood a little bit, probably more so in the commercial area. So you have to decide what to do about that.
Yeah, it is something that is notable. I mean, I definitely agree. There's lots to be said about sign posting and free speech, certainly. This kind of, the history, I think there's just, it came, I think, very abruptly, and it's kind of hard to kind of delve into where this came from and does it size up now. So I don't know. I think it's something to consider. That do you want to drive 7 miles along Albuquerque and there's the risk of all the street signs? I think that's something for everyone else to choose. Election signs, landscaping, septic pumping, all these kind of
Clarify that.
things.
As far as landscaping signs and roof clearing the roof, snow plowing signs, there are no off-premises signs allowed. So those should not be popping up.
Correct. And signs still with properties that are adjacent there would not be able to put them in the setbacks. But I think, there might be points where so-and-so lives there, it's kind of gray area. And I think there's a lot to be said, and there's a lot that I think people want to talk about, we want to talk about, and so I don't know. I just have a lot of reservations with the clearing the prohibition, because I just feel like we haven't been able to arrive at something that satisfies everyone.
So I think the main question that I think we need to be clear at is what will be allowed with this repealed, like, because some of it's the property lines, like along Albuquerque, there's the part that is within the town right of way, and there's parts that are not within the town right of way. So what exactly could someone put where if this gets repealed?
Same thing you could put on any other street in town.
Yes.
I guess, what,
Like what?
yeah, like what?
Like
Because,
if we get a notification that there's a 5K running on Saturday morning, that can go on any other street, but it can't go in Albuquerque, is that what we're saying?
That is correct.
That's right.
Okay.
Correct, yeah.
And in theory, you know, Albuquerque would be no different than what we see on 3A. I mean, 3A signs permitted. It's just, I think, worthwhile to think about, is that a change that residents want to see?
yeah, the biggest difference with Albuquerque is it has a lot more town-maintained area, because there's the road, and then there's the gap between the road and the walkway, and then there's the walkway. And then there's more, like, in most places, there's even more grass in that area.
So I did read in the minutes where, or perhaps some commentary where there was concern about mowing the lawn in and around these signs and whatever else. But that's assuming that someone's actually putting the signs not on their property. I mean, is that, by this repeal, is this opening up that as well on the town-owned property as well as whatever area that they own? Because I didn't understand that comment when they talked about it would be an issue with mowing the lawn on town-owned property. I'm like, but this is only for residents' properties along
No,
Albuquerque.
this is town. Right now, residents can put signs on their property without an issue. It's not town property. This would be the property that runs along Albuquerque that is in the town right away, where the road crew maintains. They're gonna have to stop, move the sign, pick up the sign, clean up the sign. So if it's on their property, they could do whatever they want.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
There's no obstruction, there's no issue. The concern we have, I should say I believe the board has it too, as well as the road agent, is the impact it's gonna have to him on cleaning up, policing it. Who's going to monitor the signs? Who's gonna take down the signs? When does he take down the signs? What does he do with these signs? And if you go to the end of Albuquerque and Page, you look at that mess, that could turn into Albuquerque. It may not. We haven't gotten to that point because Kevin is authorized to remove signs along Albuquerque. He does leave election signs and stuff like that. He does not.
He does not. It is, and it's a violation of state.
He does not. He does not remove.
If you put an election sign out there, they collect it.
He does collect it.
Yes.
But the concern is, what we were looking for is some kind of policing request where they come to the board, request, I want to put a sign up here. Yes, okay, we know whose it is, we'll know how long it's going to be there, and we trust you're gonna go remove it, and if not, they'll remove it. Right now, it is truly, any sign can go up, and it can stay as long as it wants, and there's no one that could tell you to remove it.
Based on this petition.
If this is removed, what permits people to put signs on public right of way?
So, I mean, right now, people will, because where they're frequently putting a temporary sign is between the edge of the road and the front of their property, and so that's kind of the area, and it's really not public property, because in most cases, it is subject to public right-of-way, but they own to the center line, right? So that's, Albuquerque is different because it has a very wide, in most cases, if not all, deeded right-of-way. So the concern for people is that if they kept it on their property, in many cases, the right-of-way is very wide and often wooded. And so
I think it's 75 feet back.
75 feet back, and so
Right.
you wouldn't,
See it.
people wouldn't be able to see it. So if they're advertising the parade or, a fishing derby or whatever it is, you wouldn't be able to see it. So that's the issue.
It's not 75 feet, it's,
It's a 75-foot right-of-way.
right, the pavement's 24 and the whole right of way is 75, it's not 75 feet into their property.
No, right, but in a lot of areas, there's still a lot of, again, that's was I'm not arguing the point, just, and that's the
Yeah.
testimony in answer to the question of why, that was why
Right.
people were saying there's woods and it's difficult.
Right.
If we did it, it'd be difficult to
It's
see.
no longer in line of sight, it is.
Yeah, and I'd say one counter argument could be made is that no one's driveway is on Albuquerque. They have other right of way that they can put signs in front of. I think, in like my view, is that there's probably a better way to handle this, where we can have policies for different types of signs, which would facilitate the proper like dating of signs and timelines for signs so that they're not there in forever.
We can address all that in the next go-around.
Yeah.
You know,
I think
put this on the ballot as it's written, because we have to, and then in the following year, after we've had a year of living under the change that this gives us, we construct something that we believe would be more favorable, and put that on the ballot.
Or if there's no issue, we could just let it be.
Yep.
Can I speak? We just open for public input?
When it comes to the types of signs and the time that you can have them up there, I mean, if they're election signs, they're highly regulated, and everybody that's running for election is responsible for collecting their signs. We can put them at Hillcrest in Albuquerque, but we can't put them anywhere else in Albuquerque. And it's the only road in the whole town that has this moratorium. I think you have to err on the side of, people really do the right thing most of the time. And leave it up to us to be responsible for cleaning up our signs. I mean, it was just like the parade ordinance that we put in place. We had a moratorium on throwing candy because the road agent didn't want to pick up the candy. And we said, okay, we'll pick up the candy. And so we don't have to take it out of the parade. I mean, that's got to give us a little credit for doing the right thing.
That's a wishful tradition.
Again, I really hope the planning board sees fit to recommend this, because let the people decide, right? It's on the ballot, they can decide what they want.
Okay. So, what's the?
I was gonna say, I was only gonna add that when I think of the stretch along Albuquerque, having moved here from a town that didn't have that jewel, I look at it as park space. I don't look at it as a road with green space and, oh gee, this bike path. I look at it as, that's your park that stretches all the way downtown and all the way through town. And it's really special, to be honest. And I personally would have a really hard time seeing Parkland with signs on it. It just, or anything else for that matter. That's just, but that's how I view it. I don't know if others do.
So you would not recommend? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
I would-
I would have a hard time with that, and I'd like to, and I think that it's gonna go to the ballot, the voters are gonna decide either way, so nobody has to think like me. That's fine. I'm afraid if, as a board, and you're all entitled to your own opinions, but as a board, if I were to recommend this, or if it went and the board is suggesting, if we did suggest that it was okay, once you set that precedent the other way, it's gonna be really hard to go back and find this other happy medium that you might wanna seek. I just, I don't see it coming back again, so I think once you do this, and if the voters decide that that's what they want, regardless of what me or the rest of us think, then that's fine. Then, okay, then I'll be in the minority, but.
So I would probably also vote to not recommend this as worded, because I think there's a way that has fewer unintended consequences than this. In looking at the aerial view of property lines, which are not perfect, but you can just center it yourself to know where the property lines probably are. I think there's plenty of places where people can put signs on their property if they are near Albuquerque, and they can have their sign pretty visible without going on town right of way.
Roof-mounted signs aren't allowed.
Yeah,
That's the only way someone's gonna see a sign from my property on Albuquerque, if I don't put it on Albuquerque.
like this one here, like just put it there or there,
And that's the current practice.
and that's not that bad.
Yeah, I would also echo from similar concerns. I do think Albuquerque at present is special. I think it's been zoned as a kind of town resource, and I think it's been developed as such, especially with the walking path. And you have to think the majority of these signs, even the signs that have existed on Albuquerque in previous years that we've seen with the high school, I know some of those we're making this conversation is because of those kind of exceptions, but they go right along the bike path. You know, there's a lot of unknowns, I think, and there's not a whole lot of benefit to pushing this through and encouraging it and recommending it. But I think there might be a lot to be gained to taking some time and thinking through all the kind of steps and what the town really wants to see. So I think just my conscience individually, I would not be comfortable recommending it, so I would vote no.
And I'm in support of figuring out something over the course of the next year, just find a new wording that is much more prevents clutter and prevents unanticipated consequences, but still allows people to put up some signs for some community beneficial uses at times.
Again, obviously, there's a petition out there, warrant article is gonna be done, town meeting.
But do we
Anybody-
have to say the planning board recommends?
I think
and then
it's like
take a
what
vote?
we
It'll
do
be
with the Board of
0,
Selectmen
1,
and the
5, 4.
Budget Committee, recommended this to this.
Right,
So
and
we're
then
gonna
you get the
Putting
vote.
that,
We're gonna have to make,
You have to,
based on the counts, where someone's gonna have to make a motion to not recommend, and then you're gonna vote for it if you don't recommend, and against it if you do recommend it.
I would
I
go the
think that'll
opposite. I would
confuse
do a-
people.
you always do it in the affirmative of
Right.
what they're looking for.
But then
Yes.
And
technically the motion
and
would
then
fail.
you vote
Right.
accordingly. So the
But it's an easier
motion
to
is in
understand
the
motion.
affirmative.
So we'd have to, if you wanna do that first, it would be a failed motion, then we'd have to, I think, vote
No.
to not recommend.
No,
No,
no, we have to
Like
have a
Lisa
vote
said,
now.
it's the
You
motion in the
vote in the
affirmative.
affirmative.
Right, but I think the ballot
I
will
mean,
say
you,
not
I'm sorry,
recommended by the
you
planning board, and then
Right.
it will have to vote. That's how it will read on the ballot.
propose it in the affirmative.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that.
okay. Does anyone wanna make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that the planning board approve the
Recommend.
recommend the petition warrant article.
For 150400.
Oh, yeah, to rescind section 1504, paragraph A of the Litchfield zoning ordinance.
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second for procedure.
Second for discussion? Okay, I have a second by Travis for discussion, any discussion? All right. Take a vote. All those in favor of, the motion, please signify by
Can
saying,
you read the motion again, please?
I guess, to amend section,
So,
the petition article to remove zoning section 150400A.
To recommend.
recommend.
To recommend,
Recommend.
the,
Recommend rescinding.
yeah,
Rescind.
to recommend the
Sorry.
presented petition article.
Yeah, we had a motion. We had a second. We have discussion. We take a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Those abstained? Okay. Motion passes one, or fails, I'm sorry, 106.
160.
160.
And there we go, that's the count that goes in the ballot.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of fail.
We don't have a lot of those.
No,
Yeah, it's
no, it's the
I've
first
seen a
time
few.
in my
brain
memory.
twister, that one, but yeah.
So that is the proper procedure for this?
Yes, that was the way it's supposed to,
So it would be on the ballot as the
one.
planning board recommends.
No,
No.
not recommended.
You're saying the-
Not
not
recommends?
recommended by the planning board, and then it'll have the vote.
6-0.
Okay, six,
One,
1-0.
6.
1-6-0.
Okay.
Yeah, 1 in favor, 6 against.
Okay.
So I think that completes all of the, for public hearing this evening. So thank you for everybody for coming. I appreciate the input, appreciate the board's input, and I think we'll move forward with these. We have another public hearing coming up on a couple, so. Number 2 is a voluntary merger.
Right.
And tax map, do we have an applicant this evening?
No, I have the paperwork.
Is the applicant not coming in?
No, it's by statute, the planning board shall approve, no public hearing or notice shall be required. No new survey plats need to be recorded, but the notice of the merger is recorded.
So this is for tax map 21, lot 4, 6, 8, and 20,
Right, I gave you in the portal.
2 and 6 Morgan Road, 493 and 499 Charles Bancroft Highway.
So there are 4 lots, right?
4 lots, yes. And I didn't highlight this, the lot 2120 goes across the road, so it's the 19-acre lot. It's a small lot 4 up front.
That little place where you highlighted? Wow.
Yeah, lot 4 up front,
Yeah.
499 Charles Bancroft, then 2 Morgan Road and 6 Morgan Road.
Are you sure that goes across the road?
Yeah,
So I'm looking at NRPC's site, and this is it's 2119. Sliver.
yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed it goes, it's that lot and.
Oh, I thought you meant across the road.
I got you. On the other side of Morgan,
Okay.
not on Albuquerque,
And this
yes.
actually, on the
okay.
tax map, this should not be colored because that road isn't there yet.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha, okay. When you look on the NRPC page, it has 2120 in the bottom section, not on the top section, so I just read it as
Yeah.
all of it.
Yeah.
Right.
And we have consent of the owner, I assume.
And I have the paperwork from Morgan Road Investments LLC of 1 Continental Drive, is the owner of the contiguous parcels located in town of Litchfield, and then it spells out the lots and the book and page. Now therefore, the owner aforesaid, having requested the voluntary merger of the above described lots or parcels of land pursuant to the provisions of New Hampshire RSA 674:39A, the town of Litchfield does hereby merge said parcels of land. And they have signed it. The planning board just has to sign it and get it recorded. I send it back to them and they'll record it, back to the engineer.
And I come up with a total of 25.496. Does that sound right? For the new
They
lot?
don't have a total here. They just spell out the tax map lots, 21, 4, 6, 8, and 20.
19.94.
2.0, 2.555, and 1. If I'm reading that right.
And that's,
And there are no mortgages on the lots?
no,
25.44?
25.496, but yeah, whatever, close enough.
I don't think you even need to make a motion. Let's see.
These will be the lots that we will see again in a
Right.
different form.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think they're doing this to just simplify the process?
Yeah.
Have to.
Okay, so you authorize the chair to sign that?
Well, I think we should make a motion
Motion to
to
authorize the chair.
authorize the chair to approve or sign the voluntary merger under 674-39A.
So moved.
I have a motion by Travis. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I just have a question.
Yeah.
So 2120 is not included? Across
2120 is included,
Oh, is included.
is.
Yeah, so when you look
Okay,
at-
so then you're
I didn't
talking
highlight
more.
the other side of Morgan Road there.
Then
Oh, right, because you
yeah,
take
'cause
out
then
Morgan
you're-
Road.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
that's
then you're not
included.
talking 25 point
And it's
something. You're
19,
talking-
2120 is 19 acres.
So you're talking about a total of 45 plus
No,
acres.
no.
2120
It's not
is,
19 on both sides of Morgan Road,
no,
it's
it's
19 altogether.
19.94 total, but Morgan Road slices it.
No, but that tax map is wrong, that
I see.
doesn't belong there yet.
It
Morgan
goes
Road doesn't really
over-
go that
It
far.
goes over where it's, Morgan Road is drawn. I see what you're saying. I apologize. We did have this discussion, but I wasn't,
No
my
problem.
brain wasn't in there. I apologize.
No, that's all right.
Okay.
No, I'm seeing what you're seeing too.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, wait, what?
Because if you take that out and add it. you
Yeah,
know,
it's a
add that in,
paper
It's
road.
probably a little, it's a paper
Yeah,
road,
it's a
yeah. It's
paper
probably a
road.
little bit bigger.
Okay.
All right, any further discussion? Take a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstained, motion passes 700. Okay. And we will sign that. I'll sign that at the end of the meeting. Number 3, the bond reduction for Talarico Drive from $800,000 to $313,700. Joan?
Right, and that was, on basis of LC Engineering has calculated that, and I believe I put that on a portal.
Yeah.
Calculations,
So you're looking for a vote for
right,
what?
to reduce the
To
bond.
reduce the amount?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, anyone want to make a motion? I'll make a motion, I guess, to reduce the bond reduction for Talarico Drive from $800,000 to $313,700.
Should be Telerico Street.
It should be street, yeah.
Okay, Talarico Street.
Second that.
Second by Letha. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of the bond reduction, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, abstained, motion passes 700. Next is escrow refunds for Jolt Electric, 461 Charles Bancroft Highway, $3,161 plus interest, and Finnegan Fence, 457 Charles Bancroft Highway, $3,153 plus interest.
And those basically are finished. I have LC Engineering that he's completed his review on both of those.
Okay, does anyone want to make a motion for the escrow refund? It's for both.
I move, Mr. Chair, I move that we refund the escrow for Jolt Electric, 461 Charles Bancroft Highway, in the amount of $3,161 plus interest. And for Finnegan Fence, 457 Charles Bancroft Highway, in the amount of $3,153 plus interest.
Okay, I have a motion by Letha. Do I have a second?
Second that.
Second, Jared. Any further discussion?
My only question is, do we need to do these separately? Or can we do them together? Does it matter?
I think you could do them together so long as somebody doesn't have an objection and wants to vote on them separately.
Yeah, it just occurred to me as I was.
No, that's a good question. Yeah. That's a good point. Okay. All right, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please signify for the escrow refunds for Jolt Electric and Finnegan Fence, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstained, motion passes 7-0-0. And that brings us to the master plan update, chapter 3, natural resources.
Okay, so simple update, but I actually have a draft completed. So I am just now in the process of editing it, checking map numbers and table numbers and all that stuff because they got inserted and moved around. So I should have a draft to you by the end of the week, and we should be able to discuss it at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Great.
Great.
Yeah.
There's
I think it looks nice.
a two-page agenda, it's on the back.
Okay. Next item is committee reports. Any reports from any committees? Jay, I guess I'll go start with NRPC.
Only that we do have a full meeting of the NRPC Commission on Wednesday, January 21. It was originally in February, but we have what we call a amendment to our transportation improvement plan. It's state mandated, and they can't wait till February, so there we go.
Good. My understanding is that the Economic Development Committee has been disbanded and that there is a report.
Yes, indeed. It was presented to the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
And
There it is. Okay, thank you.
Presentation, please.
Visual aid, thank you.
Yes,
Yes.
indeed. So that was last week, and the 29th. And so yeah, I thought it went well. It was a good discussion, lengthy presentation, and so yeah. So now we move on to the next phase. So once we're done with natural resources, a key next phase will be actually updating the economic development chapter of the master plan, which is one of the key recommendations that comes out of the committee. And we still have to get through this year's town meeting, but
Yep.
next year or future year, there are also recommendations for some zoning changes that we may want to consider.
Okay.
They're not specific, they're more general, but, so there's definitely, and there's a matrix in there that kind of has all the recommendations and, kind of what's planning board. So it'll be definitely worthwhile. Well, there's no reason to wait, I encourage the board to take a look at it, but,
So I guess.
stuff in here.
Kim Queenan is going to be coming to the next meeting. She will be presenting this.
Excellent.
Draft, so.
That's the
I
next
just,
planning board meeting?
Next planning board meeting, yeah. I talked to her yesterday, so. Hoping to get in here and, to discuss it, so. Should be good. Good.
Yes, and she is the principal author.
She is the principal author. We had a capital improvement committee meeting last night, and in order to get some more public input. And it has gone back to the Board of Selectmen. They had tabled it the last meeting to get the public input. We have gotten the public input from the committee. It's going back to the Board of Selectmen. They will vote on it probably at their next meeting. The Conservation Commission meets this Thursday, Joan?
6:30 at the fire station.
6:30 at the fire station. And the Lower Merrimack Local River Advisory Committee did meet, I believe it was December 18th. And they had the folks from Liberty Utilities regarding the gas line, or the gas line that's gonna come through, I guess, Manchester, Merrimack, Litchfield. They actually, I think, are gonna be coming to Litchfield to speak, Thursday
10
at the
a.m.
Technical Review Committee, my understanding, about that, so. Interesting discussion.
And Kim Kleiner, I think, if everybody saw, did send an email to the board. Board
Yes.
members are welcome to come.
Correct.
I wonder how, with the Budweiser plant closing and not having an easement, I wonder how that's gonna be impacted.
Good question.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And I think there's gonna be more discussion as we go forward, so, yeah. Let's see, I think that's everything I have. We've covered it all. Okay. Let me just check. There we go. of the minutes of December 16th. Last meeting, did everyone have an opportunity to take a look at those? Have any questions, concerns, amendments, changes?
I didn't notice anything.
Okay, and it does, if anyone, I was not at that meeting, so I mean, if anyone wants to make a motion to approve them, they can so do so.
Anyone else have any
Any questions?
observations?
I'd seen something, I can't find it now, so maybe I was imagining I saw something.
It's hard to find sometimes.
Yeah, I have nothing.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the December 16th, 2025 minutes.
Okay, I have a motion by Jared, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Russ. Any further discussion? I'll take a vote. All those in favor of the approval of the December 16th, 2025 minutes of the Litchfield Planning Board, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Those abstained? Aye. Motion passes, let me see, 5-0-2. Okay. Any other business this evening? Jay, do you have anything?
I do not.
Joe?
Kim Kleiner is going to do a year in review, and she wanted, departments to submit their top 2 or 3 items for her year in review.
Okay.
When does she want that by?
Probably soon.
Top items that the planning board did in
Yeah,
2025 or something?
Items of interest.
All right. Did you have something, Jay?
Yeah, I've been following some of the Board of Selectmen updates, and yeah, we talked about it a while ago, but they are moving forward as anticipated with the sale of the state-owned properties for the from the former circumferential highway project. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that.
I was at I zoomed into a DOT meeting on Monday, and they got approval to sell some condos. I think there's 6 occupied condos in Merrimack. So that moved forward, and they will be at the Board of Selectmen in Hudson next week to do a similar presentation as was done here, although obviously Hudson has so much more property. It'll be interesting to
There's
see. how that goes.
19 properties that are currently occupied, renting from the state, and they are offering the renters first dibs at purchase.
Yeah.
In Litchfield, I think we have 3.
Yeah, they also have extensive areas of, undeveloped land.
Yes.
Very, very extensive. So that'll be interesting. There'll also be a public information meeting scheduled in Hudson. I don't believe there's a date for that yet, but that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, and what we want to do is team up with Hudson to talk to them to find out what they're thinking about doing with that land and see how, if we can come up with the same plan. I don't remember how much land, I think we have 50 acres or something like that. That might even be large.
They have extensive wetlands. Hudson
do.
does.
Yeah,
Most of theirs land is between 111 and 3A. 3A Lowell Road.
yeah, and ours is, really the only woodsy section of town, a little north of Noel's Tree Farm. And it's some on the right, it goes to the left, it's right on the Hudson border. It climbs up to 102, crosses 102 a little bit there's a little bit of Litchfields. Actually, to get to it, you have to go through Hudson. And then, off into Hudson.
But it
So,
also goes to the river.
yeah, it starts at the river, crosses 3A, goes up through, the property and comes out on 102 and then crosses 102. And they met with us, showed us, the town will also have first dibs at purchasing the property. If the town decides not to purchase the property, it goes to, New Hampshire Housing. And then if they don't, then they could, I think, sell it off,
Yeah, the auction.
auction it off, yeah. So we're thinking like we said, we're gonna meet with Hudson, figure out what they're gonna do, see if it aligns with what we wanna do, and then would have to go to town ballot, and I don't see it coming up anytime soon, to figure out how much it costs and if the town is willing to purchase that land.
Interesting.
More to come.
Yeah. Okay. I think that concludes our business for this evening with the planning board, unless anyone has anything else. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Jared, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Travis. All right, any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, abstained, motion passes 7-0-0. Thank you for joining us this evening, and we will see you on January 20th. Have a good night.